What are non-probate assets? So most people, if you're researching probate right now, you might be familiar with what assets have to go through probate, but what ones are not going to be required? Well, let me take a step back and just tell you when probate is required briefly. Probate's going to be necessary when there are assets that were owned by somebody, they've now died, and you need to transfer those assets to yourself, to his or her heirs, to their beneficiaries, to somebody who was named in a will or maybe in a trust. And so probate is the court process, the legal process where the judge, the court, is going to say now who gets what of a person's stuff. So a lot of times the most common things that we see going through probate are going to be a house and maybe bank accounts that didn't have owners, living owners or beneficiaries on there, which kind of brings me to what doesn't have to go through probate. Well, in most states, and I'm speaking for Florida and Tennessee where I'm licensed, but my understanding is in other states as well, cars do not have to go through probate for the most part. Usually the heirs, the beneficiaries, they'll be able to go to court, or go to the local DMV with a copy of the registration, the car registration, a copy of the death certificate, and they'll be able to put title into their name at the DMV. Now, if people are fighting over the car, this could be an issue and you might have to get the court involved. But if everything's amicable, most of the time you can just go to the DMV and do it there. Same goes for other motor vehicles, including mobile homes. Those generally don't have to go through probate. If there are beneficiaries named on the accounts, so any sort of account, checking account, a savings account, a 401k, an IRA, other types of retirement accounts, brokerage accounts, or a life insurance policy, those also are not going to have to go through probate if there's a beneficiary on them. And that's not something that happens automatically. The person at some point in their life while they were alive, they would have had to have named the beneficiary. And so that those institutions, if you are the beneficiary, they'll let you know, hey, Justin, you're the beneficiary. We can release the money to you. Real estate, depending on how it's titled, might not have to go through probate, but you're going to have to look at the deed, and that's really going to be the deciding factor as to whether or not probate's necessary. A lot of times, small articles, furniture, what we call personal property, things that are inside of the house, generally not going to have to go through probate. Some of the exceptions might be, again, if these are really big ticket items, very, very expensive items. Maybe someone has, a Picasso or just an expensive piece of furniture, whatever it is, and maybe they left it via a will. You might have to consider going through probate. Not all the time, but it might be necessary. But really where that would come up is if, again, people are fighting over it. If you've got siblings saying, hey, mom left me that antique, and the other sibling says, no, she left me it. There might be court involvement for that. So again, the main thing where it's going to be determined whether it's probate or non-probate is how the assets are owned. Again, look at if there's beneficiaries, probate's not going to be necessary. Look at the type of item that it is. Again, we talked about cars and motor vehicles and a lot of personal property. Most of the times not going to be having to go through probate, but you'll want to look at those things. And again, if you think it's going to be contentious, if you think there's going to be fighting, document everything. I always tell my clients when they come to me, listen, if you think there's going to be a fight, and sometimes even if you don't think there's going to be a fight, take pictures, do a video log, write down everything, because what you don't want to happen is you start selling off assets, or you start taking things, or even you don't start taking things and a sibling or someone starts accusing you of stealing and different things like that. Just protect yourself, and hopefully everything goes smooth.